Welcome back to the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel, where we're jumping back into virtual reality and back into Xplane 11, the flight simulator that, to be frank, everybody should own. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's made even better with Fly Inside Xplane 11, which of course lets you play it in virtual reality. Though it is worth saying, at some point Xplane 11 will have native VR support. They are working on it. The developers did a video recently, and that will be really interesting to see what it's like. I'm not sure if it'll have all the same features of Fly Inside, which lets you bring windows and what have you in, but what I would expect is better performance and better frame rate, as well as some other optimizations which can only really come if a game supports something natively. That said, the VR with Fly Inside Xplane 11 is absolutely fantastic. It's how I play the game. Every time I load it up, virtual reality. It's the only way to fly. Now, for this flight, we've stolen the crown jewels. We've gone to Heathrow Airport, and we're going to try and take them across the channel to France. Now, I've not picked an airport in France. We've turned our radio off. We don't want the police to know where we are. Obviously, they'll be able to use radar to track us, but we've turned the radio off. Stealth mode initiated. I've put some special stealth material underneath our Cessna Skyhawk. And unfortunately though, because it's United Kingdom, we're stuck in a traffic jam on an airport. There's no escape from traffic jams. You spend all this money on an aeroplane, and you're still stuck in a traffic jam. I thought the point of planes was to avoid this situation. I'm a criminal, so I've had enough of waiting. We're just going to overtake this guy. You know, as long as we've got clearance. The nice thing with VR is you can see if you're... By clearance, I don't mean clearance from the air traffic control. I mean, as long as our wings don't hit each other. Nicely, he's got the dual engine Cessna. I don't know, caravan. Technical names here, I don't know. His wings are lower than ours. We just niftily go over the top. And nicely in virtual reality, you can see very clearly if your wings are going to collide. We've had a little check to the right. Runway's clear. There's no more passenger jets landing, and we're just going to go gun it on the throttle and just get straight off into the air. Now, you'll notice the weather. I thought for a change, normally I play Xplane 11 on sunny, happy days to compensate for the fact that I don't normally get to see the sunshine. So I thought I'd set it to miserable, normal UK weather and just see what it was like. And it's actually really quite good. Bearing in mind, this is Vanila X-Plane 11. The only thing I've changed in this version of Xplane 11 I'm using is some Author for XP terrain imagery. It's where you basically, for those of you who don't know, you just download Yahoo, Google, Bing satellite images that then placed on the ground, so you end up with photoreal ground textures. But the actual, and that's free as well, but everything else is completely stock. I've not downloaded any DLC or airports. And the clouds and weather and everything else is all vanilla stock out of the box. So I have to say, I was actually quite impressed with the clouds. I think they've got the looming, depressing, miserable nature of this sort of low cloud cover that you get in the UK. They've got it down pretty well. And what you really notice in VR is the subtleties of the light that you get from this cloud. And what we're going to do for the start of this flight with the crown jewels, before we actually get to the channel, because we're quite far away from the channel, is I'm going to fly through the clouds to compare the experience of doing it in the game to reality. I've obviously been on a passenger jet, and it was obviously cloudy, and it was really nice. Being on the ground, it's all rainy, miserable, clouds there, and then as you break through the clouds and above the clouds, it's sunny. Because in the sky, assuming you're above the clouds, it is always sunny, assuming it's also daytime. So I thought it'd be interesting to see how Xplane 11 emulates that. It's something I hadn't tried out yet. Now, what you will notice is the lighting. I think is absolutely superb in Xplane 11. This is one of the things they've really, really nailed in this simulator. Is not just you've got all the different times of day, but all the different tones of light and how the weather affects that tone of light. So when you're near the clouds, you get more this sort of orangey tone, especially when the sun's setting, as it is now. But you also get the way the sun highlights off the buildings on the ground, the 3D buildings and the sort of auto-gen terrain. it's all just lit really nicely, and there's loads of subtle lighting effects going on, loads of really nice, interesting colours. Those of you that do photography will know, you know, when the sun's setting or the sun's rising, especially when there's a little bit of cloud, it looks really nice and spectacular. And I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of the lighting in Xplane 11. Whoever the graphics programmer is, they've got mad skills. You also notice, this is something I really noticed in Xplane 11 over Xplane 10, the way the aircraft itself picks up the lighting and how the aircraft reflects the lights on the aircraft surface just looks absolutely exquisite, and I found it really immersive virtual reality and really draws you in, makes it feel quite believable. Now we've just penetrated the clouds, and I did notice something in VR that's quite scary actually. The way the clouds are done, the default clouds, they're probably sprites that then rotate based on the player's camera position. In 2D, they probably look static or aren't as disorientating. In VR, it gives you the appearance of the clouds rotating around you, and if you're looking at the front of the cockpit at the clouds, it makes you feel like you're doing barrel rolls and loop the loops, because that's your only reference. Fortunately, I've been reading my pilot manual, and I'm extensively trained in crown jewel pilot theft, and immediately I went to my dials, looked at them closely, and we used them to fly by the instrumentation. We, you know, clearly a highly qualified pilot, so that stopped us from doing actual loop the loops by overcompensating on the yoke. And here we go, popping out the top of the clouds. This is absolutely superb. So you've got the miserable United Kingdom below you, bloody depressing, borderline suicidal. You get in a plane, you pop above the clouds, and look at that beautiful blue sky, nice little gradient from the clouds, and you see that sort of haze into the distance. I know some of you are probably just looking at this going, oh, yeah, it looks kind of like looks like the sky and some clouds. But if you actually look at the real sort of subtleties of the shades and how the top of the clouds are done, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I really, really appreciate this detail. Again, crucially, in the stock version of the game. A huge problem with previous versions of flight simulators was you had to get tons of add-ons just to get something vaguely acceptable. Xplane 11, install it, do the flight lessons, you can get flying. Even if you're a complete noob, you can just get into it and enjoy it. Absolutely amazing. You can see some really nice little variations in the clouds as well, where you've got little gaps, some little highlighted bits of clouds where the sun's picking them up. Really good. And this is just one time of day, obviously, because it's fully dynamic day, night, and so this will look different depending on where the sun is. I'll try not to go on about it too much. I just think it looks absolutely beautiful. Get Bob Ross in the VR Cessna. He could be sat next to me painting the happy little clouds from the top down. That would probably confuse him. He'd think he's painting upside down, probably have a breakdown, and wish he'd never got in a plane with me. But you know, it's the risk you take when you get into a Cessna with a crown jewel thief. So other Xplane 11 news, I think we'll go back down under the clouds so we know where we're going. I got a bit lost at this point. Let's go the wrong way. Had to bring the map up, but we'll go back down through the clouds and enjoy the ground terrain a bit more. But other Xplane 11 news, we're a little bit behind on this, but at the end of last month, the 30th of July, absolutely amazing update to Xplane 11, which basically gave 1,000 3D airports. Well, 1,000 plus. Some of them are already there, but a lot of them have just been updated. Basically, the way Xplane 11 works with a lot of airports is the community can actually develop the 3D buildings for the airports and just upload them to the site, and they get put in the simulator, assuming they pass their basic quality level. And as a result, again, without having to buy any DLC, there are DLC airports and DLC add-ons, but without buying any DLC airports, there's a whole ton, a mammoth amount of 3D airports to land at that look really nice, and they're not though the people that do the airports have to use a limited amount, this is from my understanding, have to use a limited amount of buildings and objects to actually put them together, and it's requires a little bit of artistic jiggery-pokery for the people that do it. The end result is airports that actually look like real airports. It doesn't feel like you're landing at some sparse, barren field. You've just got a ton of airports all over the UK, all over the entirety of the world that are proper 3D airports that you can fly to. So to the point now where most main airports, if they weren't already included in the game and developed by the Xplane developers, have now been done by fans of the simulator, people with too much time and too much generosity. So the chances are, if you're going to a major airport anywhere in the world, it's 3D and looks pretty damn convincing. So that's absolutely awesome. I say that happened on the 30th of July. 15 days behind on that information there. And seeing as I'm talking about updates, the other thing that's just happened literally today is that they're doing a sale on the actual DLC airports and some terrain. But personally, even on sale you could spend £300 if you wanted to buy everything. Personally, I wouldn't bother. I don't see the point in buying them. You might as well just use the Author for XP and put up with some of the generic buildings. Although I guess if you really do play Xplane 11, you're super into simulators and it's the main thing that you play. It's kind of like the iRacing argument. If that's all you play, then it's not a lot of money and you'll get the value out of it. If you're like me, bit of a super casual flyer, you don't really need any of that DLC. Okay, I may have got a little bit lost, but thankfully, through the wonders of virtual reality, I looked out the windows and we could see the coast in the distance, so I meandered my way down the coastline and found ourselves flying towards Bex Hill. Well, actually, we were flying towards Eastbourne first, and then we've adjusted, and we should be flying, I think we're just past Hastings, and we're now going over Fairlight Cove, in the direction of the Dungeness Corner. That's what I'm calling it, the Dungeness Corner. It's actually the Dungeness National Nature Reserve, a place where if you go to, you probably never return from. The reason we're using that as a waypoint is because I've not plotted anything on a map. We're completely flying by dead reckoning, flying by sight. And I know that Dover is in that direction, and I know that Calais is to the right. So, as long as I can see the UK on the left, as long as I know vaguely where we are all fine and dandy. And of course, I have been using the handy M button, which is located inside every aeroplane on the keyboard. That's also located inside every aeroplane. And the M button brings up the map, which does help with your bearings, especially as it says you underneath your plane, just in case you didn't know it was you and thought it was someone else. So, as you can see, we're kind of cutting the corner here, and that's because we are starting to run low on fuel. So, hopefully we've got enough fuel to make the crossing. Otherwise, we're going to have to start throwing the crown jewels out of the back of the plane to lighten up the load. I could throw the GoPro out, but then we wouldn't have any footage, would we? So we can't do that. It's also worth saying, seeing as we're flying along the coast, another aspect of Xplane 11 that I find absolutely extraordinary is just the shape of the countries and the actual ground, the detail in the ground. Obviously, we've got Author for XP on most of the southeast of England, because that's where I happen to reside in reality, so it's nice to be able to do some sightseeing of where I am. So a lot of people use flight sims for. It's that sort of let's land at my local airport thing. We've done that, but even if you don't have the Author for XP terrain, it's just nice how the edges of the countries are very accurately finished off, even with the default terrain. And you notice I don't have Author for XP for stuff like the cliffs of Dover or some of the cliffs that are along that part of the coastline, and yet you still get that white little bit of highlight on the southeast coast that you will notice if you ever fly to the United Kingdom from France, Spain, Germany, that direction. You will, and it's not foggy, which it probably will be, or raining. If you're lucky enough to be able to see 10 metres out of the window, that's what you will notice. The first thing you see the UK will be this white shimmering cliff. Now, it's not quite as obvious in Xplane 11 as it is in reality, and it's not perfect, but you do notice the key defining features of the coastline. Now, that's really nice just to have that in a simulator, given that it's not reality and people have had to obviously make it. So really cool. And also what you really notice as well are the airports along the coastline, which stand out like a sore thumb in reality, and also stand out like a sore thumb in the simulator. So they really help you gauge your bearings and make it feel realistic. Obviously, if you know what you're doing, you'd have all the GPS and the sat nav stuff and maps and everything up, and it'd all be plotted out. But you know, if you're a lunatic and you're just doing it by eye and with the map too far zoomed out, it's nice to have that reference there. And I think we are flying towards, given that we're going towards Dover, but we're not quite there yet. And we've just flown over Hastings, I believe. We've got London Ashford Airport in front of us. It should be. I don't know why it's called London Ashford Airport, because London is quite far away from New Romney, Hastings and Dover. You know, you're talking a good sort of 50 minutes, an hour, if not an hour and a half on the train. I mean, I guess you could drive from Maidstone to Dover in 50 minutes or so, if you're lucky and there's no traffic jams, which of course there will be a traffic jam, and there's probably lorries blocking the road, so it'll probably take a week. But Maidstone is already a good hour outside of London. I mean, you can do it in, I think 40 minutes is the fastest I've gone from the Maidstone area to London over the speed limit. Wasn't me driving, so it's okay. I don't have to feel bad. But yeah, so then you've got to add on, it's at least 2.5 hours, or 2 hours. Let's say 2 hours in a car to get from London to London Ashford Airport. And it's basically countryside, you know, your car's going to get stuck. So it's not London. They do stretch it. We've got Edinburgh London Airport in Scotland, and we've got Glasgow London Airport. Just, I mean, it's only another couple of hours to get to Edinburgh. Okay, it's like 6 hours, but still. Right, I decided not to refuel at London Ashford Airport. I thought, let's risk it for a biscuit, and let's do the channel crossing with the little fuel we've got left. It's only, I think it's 26 miles, the channel. I need to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's how expansive the Dover Strait is, the Strait of Dover. Though we're not actually doing the Strait of Dover, we're doing the not London Ashford Airport Strait, a crossing not very familiar with many people, but that's why we've taken it, because they're not going to expect that. We're not going to be intercepted by the Royal Air Force, because who would be stupid enough to take a Cessna across the channel there? Now, on the subject of low... Actually, before we talk about the fuel, let's just again admire the lighting as it changes subtly. And something I noticed, when you're flying over the sea and the cloud's quite far away from you and you don't really have any close references, it's bizarre how static the plane feels. This is something that I've not really noticed before. You can tell I'm someone that plays hours of flight simulators. I'm actually a professional pilot. It's quite an interesting effect that you get because it's so far away. I guess you don't notice the parallax so much. If you're holding the plane completely steady, maybe in a motion rig you'd have the vibration, so you would feel like you're actually moving a bit more. But it feels like you're just hovering, and it's quite disconcerting. Fortunately, again, you can look at the dials, the instrumentation, to make sure you are indeed moving. It shows your speed, it shows it shows everything. So we are okay, but it was really bizarre how static you do feel. And then what's also really nice, there's a big gap in the clouds here across the water. As often I think happens, you get clouds build up over the land where there's different, obviously, humidity and interactions between the ground temperature versus the water temperature. Really nice, not just constant blanket of cloud that's just reserved for the United Kingdom, but you get these nice little gaps and areas and variations. Again, fantastic. And you'll also notice, how many autos can we put in, that the sun is indeed setting, and we're getting towards that twilight point as we're mid-channel And I mean, I said it before, absolutely superb lighting. But in terms of our fuel situation, it is pretty dire. I think we're getting to the point where our fuel gauge is going to start lighting up, or the warning light on the dash is going to start telling us that we need fuel. Probably the worst place to be told that you're losing out of fuel when you're over a large body of water. But we are pointing the plane towards Boulogne-sur-Mer, which is Boulogne on the sea, and hopefully there's an airport there. I didn't really check before we did this crown jewel heist which airport we're going to go for. I mean, I know there's an airport near Calais, but I'm not exactly sure where, and I wasn't sure if we'd have enough fuel, and it doesn't look like we do. So I'm basically, we just need to find the coast. I'm peering my head really far forwards over the nose of the plane. Really nice thing in VR is actually when you do stick your face really far forwards, you get a really nice view over the front of the plane and visibility that when you're playing in 2D, you know, it's rather static. You can move the camera around in 2D, and I find myself using the third-person view. But I really love the immersive quality of actually having to move your head around in VR to actually see what's going on. Land ahoy! We've spotted some land. We've also spotted a flashing light. I believe we've got an airport there. We are safe. The fuel warning light has come on the dash. A light you probably don't want to see, as I say, especially when you're quite far away from the coast. I don't think we'd be able to swim that far. I mean, you probably could. I guess in a pinch you could swim a couple of miles in the channel. You might freeze to death. You might get stung by the jellyfish. But it's indeed possible with my weight. Well, I guess my lard would keep me afloat and keep me warm, so we probably would survive it. So, well, there we go. We put the flaps down a bit. I'm going to try and line myself up to this airport, Boulogne-sur-Mer International, an airport that many people have landed at and gone on holiday to from the United Kingdom. A happy destination if there ever was one to visit in France. We'll just slowly make our way here. We've got a little bit of altitude. I did have the plane flying quite high because I didn't want to run out of fuel and then have to ditch in the sea. So I thought if we've got a bit of altitude, we can glide ourselves in. So flaps down a bit, and we're lining it up. See, there's a nice little cliff there. I don't want to park the Cessna into that. Oh. Seems to be lacking a runway here. It's a bloody helicopter pad! Ah, the bloody French. Oh, there's a little bit of road, but yeah, we can't land there. This is how the French get you. I mean, how many pilots have they killed? All these pilots that are trying to steal the crown jewels coming over the channel. We're just getting the map up. We need to have a look here to see where we're going to. It does look like Calais is probably going to be the only actual proper airport. Well, hold on to your horses. We've got no fuel. We're going to try and make it, I guess. Oh, dear. I can't believe that. Why do they have a ginormous, flashing, welcoming beacon? Hello. Bonjour. Welcome. Why are they German? I don't know. Hello. Welcome to the France. Come into the land with your Cessna, where you can refuel. We have plenty of... They're doing Russian now. We have plenty of the fuel. Oh, dear. It'd be easier just talking French without my accents. It's like if you called an Indian call centre with all the people operating the phones were drunk, international drunk people that have got personality disorders, and they're going through all the different nationalities. So anyway, French trickery. Oh dear. All I wanted was I just wanted to land my Cessna, refuel, baguette, saucisson. Talked about saucisson, that'd be nice. Some nice cheese and a saucisson. You have to hand it to the French. Sure, they put helicopter pads and make them look like airports to fool us thieves, but I hand it to the French. They do good cheese. And if a country does good cheese, it's a good country. That's all I can say. So, well, let's see if we can make it. What is it? It's I'm just going to have a look at the map on the other screen. Sant Ingolvert Airport. That sounds Dutch. Not French. It's before Calais, though. We'll get a bit more altitude. We'll see if we can make it there. I love how the French are being subjected to the horrible British weather, though. Actually feels quite homely. I don't know why the English and the French supposedly don't get on. Everyone I know in France and everyone I know in England likes the French. Everyone I know in France likes the English. So I don't know where that's come from. Nothing to do with history. But you know, we share the same terrible weather. Actually, I guess, you know, in Calais, they have the, you know, they do get the English weather. It's known for the English weather. They probably share the same miserable outlook on life. But they deserve the weather. If they're going to build fake airports, which are just helicopter pads with welcoming beacons, they deserve all the rain they can get. So let's see if we can get to Saint Ingolvert, the bizarrely Dutch-named French airport, and we'll see. Well, let's hold on to our horses, see if the fuel, see if we've got enough fuel to get us there. We've got the map up here in the game as well. Little handy GPS cheat going on here. What's weird is you can actually you can click and drag your plane, so you can totally cheat. I don't know if there is like a sort of hardcore mode where you can disable all this. Probably is. Oh, guys, it's probably just up to you not to cheat, but. For now, given that I'm such a noob at Xplane 11 and very much, as I say, a casual flyer, it's quite nice having these little things available to us. You can just see the airport flashing in the distance, so we'll mosey on over there. Okay, so I've been tricked again. This, I don't understand this French airport lark. I think Saint Ingolvert is just an airfield and not actually, you know, a proper runway. So we are indeed taking the crown jewels all the way to Calais. Calais Dunkirk Airport. The fuel light's been on for ages. The fuel seems to be almost empty. I can only assume that either A, we've got some kind of inability to run out of fuel because the game's on super forgiving noob mode, which is entirely possible, or B, they know that there's going to be an idiotic British guy taking a Cessna out across the channel, and they've, as a design feature of the plane, they've made sure it's got more than enough fuel, even when the gauges say 0. And I guess they would put a lot more fuel, or, you know, a lot more leeway compared to a vehicle, because, you know, if you run out of fuel in the air, unless you've got the Air Force to refuel you mid-air, it's not like you could just pull over. Well, maybe if you lived in Alaska, you could just land on a pond and I don't know, dig a hole in the ground and just siphon some oil out, clean it, turn it into aviation fuel, and put it in your plane and take off again. But we're not in Alaska, and that's a completely absurd idea. So we're banking up through the clouds, visibility gone. Resort back to the instrumentation panel, and I'm gonna actually have to say, Calais looks absolutely fantastic. You can see all these, all the individual factory buildings. You can actually see the harbour. You can really see the shape of the harbour, Calais. You notice with Dover, the Dover port and the port of Calais as well, the actual shape of how the dock is, and that, you know, how the sea breakers are and where the ferries come in, all completely as they look like in reality, but you know, they look like they do in reality in the simulator. Absolutely fantastic, especially for casuals such as myself that just really like the sightseeing and the physics aspect of simulators. I'm not really too much into the hardcore instrumentation, and, you know, all the hardcore avionic aspect of flight simulators. Though I could see that growing on us slowly. As I say, you get into that more and more and more, and before you know it, you're playing train simulator, and then you're dead. So we're on our final approach to Dover, Calais International. It's got every airport international. Why not? It makes it sound fancy. Dover, Calais, London Airport. We're just arriving now. We've got our flaps up. We're coming in. You notice, again, the lighting is getting dusky, and I've just made that term up. You can see street lights, you see car headlights. There's a little car down there on the road. awesome. I mean, it was so good. I just remember playing so many flight simulators in the past where it's just a bland, murky, vomit-coloured texture all over the floor, and you really didn't know where you were. It was a case of the airports were kind of placed correctly-ish, and you just fly from airport to airport. So you could only really enjoy them if you're playing them as a hardcore, you know, actual plain instrumentational flight. But you couldn't enjoy it in a casual... enjoyment of the graphics and the sightseeing aspect was a bit lacking back in days when games were black and white. Final approach, we just got to watch out for these trees. Really nice thing with VR, I can see in 3D how high we are above the ground. You get a really good sense of your height. We're just gonna brush the trees with our wheels. Let's not kill too many birds and destroy the nests. The French probably have a word with this. Windsock there, limp, not turgid. Let's see how smoothly we can bring it in. Deep breath. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Perfect landing. Fortunately, that there was no wind. For some reason, I didn't set the weather too well. One thing I really want to do is practice some landing in various weather conditions and see how smoothly we can land it with the plane being buffeted around. That's one of the really nice things with these small aircraft, the Cessna, is that they are really affected by different weather conditions. So it's a bit of a cheat flying it in a perfectly calm day. Though we do have the clouds on, so it's a start. We're going to... taxi our way to the parking spot, park our plane. Burdensome, if you own a plane and you actually have to park it somewhere. It's such a hard life for people that own these vehicles. But well, that's it. We've successfully secured the crown jewels from England to France, across the channel, all in one piece. I'm not sure if we actually did legitimately do it on one fuel tank or if the game was being really forgiving. We'll have to double check that. Regardless, I have to say, really, really fun, and pretty much say this is the vanilla version of the game, and that's why I really like Xplane 11. You don't have to fiddle and piss around with it to actually get something really nice and really enjoyable and really quite deep in terms of what it offers. But on that note... I don't know where we're going to take the crown jewels from Calais, Dunkirk. We'll have to fly to Spain or something next, so look out for that video. Oh yeah, we could do like a thunderstorm flight and continue the crown jewel journey around the world. But on that note, thank you everybody for watching. Definitely check out Xplane 11 demo. You can get it for free, and the demo is really good. It gives you a really good overview of what's in the sim, totally free. And it's actually got a lot of content in the demo. If you were really just super casual, you just wanted to mess around, you wouldn't even need to buy the full game. You could just play the demo. And you can get Fly Inside XP, the VR software that I'm using, for a demo of that for free as well. Though you'd have to buy the full version if you don't want the time limit on it. But definitely click the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this, definitely likey, dislikey. I can't believe you managed to watch a video for 30 minutes. Something wrong with you. 30 minutes of flight sim videos. That's patience of a saint. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more flight simulator videos. We'll be doing some more serious flight simulator videos. I'm gradually learning the actual proper features of the plane, and we'll try and do something a bit more serious in the future. But until then, off for a cup of tea and a biscuit. Thanks for watching, everybody. Beautiful sunset. Goodbye.